In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to take an image, how to take it into Photoshop, prep it as a piece of reference, and then how to set up a plane inside a 3ds Max so that you could model using the image as a guide. So for this example, I'm going to do one plane of reference, and what I found is an image of a Roman gladius, right? So I'm going to set up reference for this sword. So I found a nice resolution image. You can see here this is 1200 by 1200. I'm just going to right click here and say copy image. Okay. I'm going to go over to Photoshop, which I have open. I'm going to say create new. Now by copying the image, that is now on my clipboard. Okay, so should be able to come over here and just call it ref underscore gladius. And then I have my width and height is already set. It should match the dimensions of the image. I'm going to hit create. And now I have a blank canvas. I'm going to say edit, or no, edit, paste. And now there's that image of that Roman gladius. So the first thing I need to do is when I'm going to model, I might want to do symmetry on it. And so really the best thing for me to do is to rotate this sword so it's straight up and down. So I'm going to come over here, view, rulers. All right, so I actually just turned it off because it was on my copy of Photoshop. But if I come in here and say rulers or Control R, you now see there's little rulers here. If I click and drag where the numbers are, it drops in little guidelines. So I'm going to drag one over here kind of roughly to the center. So because I pasted that image in, it's already on another layer, so I should be able to go Edit, Transform, Rotate. And so I want to rotate, and so I'm just going to kind of click out here in the negative space of the canvas, and I'm just going to drag, and I want to try and get this sword to be kind of straight. So that's why I kind of have this guideline in there. So let's kind of move it. So you see what's happening at this point is that the image is clipping. So I'm going to hit enter. And that's going to get me out of the rotation mode. And what I need to do is I'm going to come up here to image, canvas size, and I'm going to change to pixels. And now I need to adjust the overall height and width. Now, my image that I'm using for reference happens to be square at the moment. So I'm going to keep my value square, but I'm going to go ahead and just make this a lot bigger. I want to add enough pixels so that the canvas is larger than the image, but I'm not smaller than what I've added here. So I don't want it to, because if I make the canvas not quite big enough, it'll clip my sword. So I'm going to make it just crazy big by going from 1200 pixels to 2000. There you go. Now you can see it out there. So maybe let's take a look. I'm going to go to my magnifying glass and hold Alt and click to just zoom out. All right, now I want to come in here. I'm going to go to my Move tool up here, and I want to adjust this sword so that it is centered. So that's kind of roughly the top, and there's the bottom. It kind of looks like it's centered, right? You could use the magnifying glass to click and drag to region select. All right, so it's not quite there. So I'm going to go use V to switch to move and kind of use the arrow keys on my keyboard to kind of nudge this over a little bit. And then I'm going to use the magnifying glass and hold Alt and click to zoom out. And then I'm going to use the pan the canvas tool by holding the space bar, which allows me to move this. Alright, so it looks like I'm still a little bit crooked. So I'm going to do Edit, Transform, Rotate. And you see this little target here? You can move that. So I'm going to move that so it's right down here at the tip of the sword. So that now when I rotate, it's going to rotate based off that. And now I can just kind of rotate the sword so it's kind of centered. That looks pretty good. I'm going to hit enter to get out of that mode. And now, my canvas is pretty big. I could probably make it smaller. I'm going to go to the marquee tool. I'm just going to come up here and let's do this. I'm going to not use the marquee tool. Instead, I'm going to use the eyedropper and click on this main canvas here. That's white. And now I'm going to do edit, fill with foreground color, and say OK. And then I'm going to come up here, click on my top image, come over to the side for them. Actually, I'm going to come up here to layer and say layer, flatten image, and just say edit, no, image, trim. And I want to trim based on the top left pixel color. So there you go. So that took my image and it trimmed it down. Alright, so that's really all the image that I need. Now, in order to make it easier to place the reference in 3ds Max and to make sure that the polygon matches the proportions, we're going to come in here and adjust our canvas size. So let's go image canvas size. I'm going to change to pixels. Alright, so we're at 1465 pixels. So let's just change that to 1400. And then what's half of 1400? That's 700. And then half of 700 is 350. So it's saying the new canvas size is smaller than the current canvas size. Some clipping will occur. So I did make it a little bit smaller, but not much. So let's hit proceed. You know what? It clipped the top, so I guess we don't want to do that. So I'm going to undo it. Let's do image, image size. And under pixels, we're going to change this to 1400 right here. And then say OK. So that shrinks it down a little bit. I'm going to do image, canvas size, change it to pixels. And so again, I'm going to put the width to be a quarter of the size of the height. And I want my canvas extension color to be the foreground color, which is that white that matches my object. All right, there we go. So there's my sword. Right, it's on its reference background, and I've set up the aspect ratio of it, meaning how tall and how wide it is, to be a quarter. Right, the width is a quarter of the height. Right, so now we're going to save this. And go file, save. And we're just going to come up here, and I'm going to find a location to put it in. I've navigated to my 3ds Max 2021 scenes folder. I'm going to make a folder for Gladius. And now I'm going to save my Gladius image in here. And I'm going to save this as a PNG file. I'm going to give it a name, ref, underscore Gladius. That's reference Gladius. Now when I hit save, it's going to give me the PNG format options. I'm going to leave them as large file size. So it's just going to go ahead and save that off. All right, so now my reference is all set. All right. The next step is for me to set up the reference plane in 3ds Max.